full roundup of what's been happening today shortly, but despite all the rushed choreography, the deal between the Liberal Democrats and Conservatives still has to be passed by, in particular in the Lib Dems case, a majority of their federal executive, the ruling body, which has just been meeting, has just been breaking up, MPs meeting as well. And we can go live to our political correspondent, Mike Sargent, there at Westminster. Mike, what are you hearing?
Well, the voting is taking place at the moment on this deal. The federal executive and the MPs, show of hands inside the room as we speak. I asked one of Nick Clegg's senior advisors, I sent him a text a few minutes ago saying, has this deal been approved? He replied back, it will be soon. So optimism from the Lib Dem camp, this deal is going through. We haven't had it confirmed yet that the Lib Dems have voted this through, but it doesn't seem like this final hurdle that it had to clear tonight is presenting a serious obstacle.
And they need, what, 3/4 of the federal executive to approve it?
Yeah, 3/4 of the federal executive and 3/4 of the MPs. That means if 15 or more MPs object to it, or 9 or more members of the federal executive object to it, then they have to call a special conference at which they need a 2/3 majority of the vote. If they can't get that, it has to go to a ballot of all party members. That's the so-called triple lock that we've always known the Liberal Democrats would have to negotiate were they to enter into any kind of coalition agreement, anything that might compromise the independence of their party to act. The hope of the party leadership was always to get the MPs and the federal executive together in one room at the end of all of this and say, who is against this? And if more than a quarter of either body say they are, then there could be problems. But I don't think that's happening. I think it's being voted through. We don't have the confirmation yet, but still, those close to Nick Clegg are very confident that this arrangement, this coalition deal with the Tories that sees Nick Clegg become Deputy Prime Minister, the Liberal Democrats have 4 other cabinet posts, a series of policy concessions from the Conservatives, also things that they've had to give up as well, things like the mansion tax, things like their opposition to replacing Trident. So they've had to make concessions too, but the overall package looks like it's going through, and many Liberal Democrat MPs that I've spoken to believe that their negotiators have achieved a great deal for the party, given they've only got 57 MPs, to have 4 jobs in cabinet, plus Deputy Prime Minister, plus concessions in the 4 main areas of the policy they were campaigning for. They regard this as a good result tonight.
Right, Mike, we'll be straight back to you as soon as you hear anything there, which, as you say, may be very soon indeed. Thank you very much for the moment with that update. Mike Sargent there, still at that meeting at Westminster. Obviously, be straight there the moment we hear anything. But Britain has its first coalition government since the Second World War. David Cameron arrived in Downing Street this evening to take up residence as Britain's new Prime Minister, despite the fact that these meetings are still taking place. The Conservative leader had come from Buckingham Palace, where he'd been invited by the Queen to form a government.